Welcome everyone to today's webinar on maximizing low-code productivity with PK and OutSystems. Before we get started with the presentation, I want to remind everyone that all attendees have been muted and the presentation will be recorded and sent out. We do encourage everyone to get involved in the discussion by including any questions you may have in the Q&A tool within the platform, and there will be time at the end for a Q&A session with the speakers. Furthermore, I'd like to introduce our speakers. We have David Darby, Managing Director at PK, and then we have David Soden, Principal at PK, and then Mike Josephson, Lead Solution Architect at OutSystems. And now I'll let David take it away.
Thank you, Chelsea. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Glad to have you aboard. Looking forward to sharing with you today our presentation about maximizing low code. David, can you switch us through to slide 3, please? So today we have a quick agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about PK for those who may be new to PK, look at some approach considerations for low code options and opportunities, introduce an exciting low code platform that we've been working with recently called OutSystems. We have a demo, and then we'll move into some Q&A and follow up with some next steps. So skipping through a little bit about PK for those who may not be familiar. Can you go to the next slide, please, David? We are the experienced engineering firm. And so what this means to us is that we're not just trying to sell projects or adding people to augment our customers' teams. We're working to try to understand what's the real business value at driving the need here. And then we add to that our industry expertise, as well as expertise in the experience strategy and design side, and our cutting edge technology skills to craft outcomes that are going to lead to experiences that matter for the user's journey. And this process we find really helps to elevate the brand, but also increase the adoption to the solutions that we build and help produce for our customers. Next slide, David. For those of you who may be not as familiar with PK, just want to walk you through a little bit about who we are and how we go to business, how we go to market, and how we're organized to support our customers. So I'm going to start in the top right and then move over to the left-hand side of the slide. But first of all, we're a team of about 5,000 employees around the world. We have 20 global offices and 11 global delivery centers. And this is awesome because it means we can scale up to support our customers' needs and also provide support around the clock for them for their essential projects. We have worked hard to be the best at all that we do, and consequently, we've been recognized by customers like Forrester as experts in a number of areas, as you can see there in the bottom right. Now, moving over to the left-hand side of the slide, we drive our solutions based upon industry, and over the years, we have garnered a lot of experience and expertise in many key industries, and that really helps us accelerate solutions for our customers. But behind these industrial expertise, we also have some pillars, some designated pillars of technical expertise as well. And under each of these pillars, we have competencies in multiple technologies with things like our centers of excellence to ensure the best in class solutions are being delivered to our customers. So today, as we dive deeper into low code, we'll be looking at this particular competency, which can be found underneath our digital engineering service line. And that is, of course, our low code and rapid application development team. So next, please, David. So no matter where you are in your journeys, of bringing low code into your organization, just keep in mind that PK can help your team and help you move forward in that journey. It can be anything from assisting with strategy and consulting, which may include even things like looking for the best platform to service your needs. We also help out with architecture and assessment, looking at both the current state of your applications as well as what that ideal state would be. And don't forget the UI UX. Even in low code, UI UX is very important for really having people enjoy the application and for firm adoption. We can, of course, help with the engineering or development of the application, and also help establish best practices and code reviews, et cetera. And finally, we can also help with the operationalization of the project as well, making sure that things are running smoothly and are continuing to develop and move forward. So we have that end-to-end capabilities to help you deliver experiences that are going to really engage your customers. So why is there such a stir today in the marketplace for low code solutions? Well, we kind of see 4 primary things that are driving that. And first of all, we think low code helps you build it fast, and that helps with innovation and also helps you to work smarter. Second, it helps you build it right. In the past, some people have thought low code just meant very basic application development, but we're seeing platforms and frameworks now that help you build true enterprise grade customer experiences out there. Thirdly, you can build it securely. And, there's a lot in the news today about, security compromises and compliance needs and regulations changing. When built in a proper low-code platform, your applications can kind of be on top or be ready to adjust to those ever-changing risks and regulations that are coming up. And finally, we see a lot of need to build for the future. You don't want to just build an application that's going to work today. You're going to want to build something that's going to work tomorrow and work as your business continues to evolve and adapt. And low code really does help improve that operational efficiency and changeability. So it is really a strong driver for digital acceleration. Finally, before I switch it over to the rest of our presentation and panelists today, I just want to talk about one important aspect of maximizing your low code initiatives, and that is finding the right platform. There's a lot of platforms out there today, and so depending upon what your specific needs and desires are, you're going to want to take a quick assessment or go through a checklist to see which is going to meet your specific needs. A number of things to consider include things like maturity and ease of the CI/CD process. How quickly can you deploy? Does this manage multiple environments like dev to production? And can you keep track of change logs and rollbacks and all things like that? Second one is a big one today is, does your platform support multiple developers working in the same code base at the same time? In traditional development frameworks and platforms, we could do that. In some low code systems today, this is a challenge. So make sure you find one that's going to meet what your specific needs are there. Of course, you want things that have industry focused solutions and accelerators. Also, it's important that they have connectors to third-party systems, but just don't look for connectors in one direction, like pulling data into your application. They also need to have connectors that allow you to other applications to pull data from your low-code solution. Of course, it's important to have a low-code platform that can deploy your application to multiple platforms or frameworks, like a native mobile app versus a web app. Community vendor and provider support networks are important. And the final one here on the list I have today is vendor IP lock-in. Some low-code platforms today, once you build your application in them, it's hard to get it out if you needed to move to a different provider. And so it's important to make sure that you understand what the limitations are there or what the options are there, so that if down the road you do want to move, pick that up and move, you can do so in an organized and meaningful manner. So now I'd like to turn over the presentation to my colleague, David Soden. He's one of our low-code solution architects, and he's going to look a little bit more at some approach considerations, and then he'll also be introducing the OutSystems low-code platform to us a little bit more. David?
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate the hand up there, and I apologize for hitting the slide there and rushing through a little bit on the sides. So today what I want to do is I want to talk to you about some of the approach considerations, and a lot of this is going to dig a little bit deeper into what David had already showcased and kind of bring the whole story together. So at the high end, let's talk a little bit about strategy as kind of a first phased approach, and specifically your agility. Think about how your business was able to handle things most recently in the coronavirus outbreak. How were you able to move new business systems, new apps into the business or into the hands of the end users? And so that's really, really important. And it's a great litmus test to kind of figure out how agile your company's been. Now, that's not the only driver, but in other business use cases, merger acquisitions, sometimes you have to do things very quickly. And so what are some of the contributing factors to that? Well, complexity is probably the biggest thing, and the more complex things are, the longer that they take. And as you have more complexity, all kinds of things creep up, but it also prevents you from being able to move forward to a future state, because you have to do a lot of planning, a lot of execution around all of that. And so it takes time. Well, there's an old saying that time is money, and so that goes to the cost. In addition to the cost, it has to do with risk. The more things and the more complicated things are, chances are something else could go wrong, and you don't want to try to do a cutover to a new system with all of this complexity. So one of the things to do is to try to reduce the risk, reduce the cost. And when you do all of that, those two things happen in parallel, and that'll help you to become more agile. So if we look at the PK being at the center or the forefront of that, we are the experienced engineering through the digital engineering department and the COE specifically. And we want to talk to you today about introducing you to OutSystems. I've had the opportunity to recently become certified in OutSystems, and I've got to learn it from the inside and out. It's really, really been a wonderful experience. And so, you know, with this partnership, we are registered, and we have gone through the simple points of looking at building things fast, but more importantly, building it right for the customers that we're talking with. And also, again, security is very, very important. And we want to make sure that whatever you build is for the future state. So let's talk a little bit about maybe your scenario or your situation or where you are currently today. And you may have one or more or even all of these in your environment. And so application modernization is probably the biggest initiative that most companies are facing today. And there's information and data and applications all over the place, from cloud platforms to maybe the low code, no code platform itself. In the platform, there's data that's there, as well as information that's on-prem, as well as information that is in the data center. And so you may even have a hybrid solution of all of these. So one of the things that I want to talk to you today about is the low code, no code, and the API generator that's in OutSystems. This is a headless application. For those of you that aren't familiar with the term headless, it's basically an application without a user interface. And it allows, or it could be, I guess, maybe better described as the glue that would allow for integrations between, say, system A, B, and C. And it's kind of how things talk together behind the scenes. And so with the OutSystems platform, not only can you consume microservices from other third-party vendors, but every effort that you put inside of the application and building it, you can also use and leverage this component to share information with other modules and other applications inside of the platform, but as well as third-party ERP systems or anything else that you need to connect to or with. So if we start talking about traditional development on low code, no code, a lot of competitors simply start and end with a web-based application. There's no native mobile applications. That's not the case with OutSystems. So in addition to the web responsive or reactive web app, you also get the native tablet, native mobile, and these are available through distribution in Google Play and the App Store. But one of the things that you want to consider is that you may have difficulty in using or deploying these apps, but you still have the need of the business desire to get these apps on a device. Well, that's where progressive web apps come in to make sure that you can deploy your applications on these devices or at the device level. And then previously, we talked about the API third-party consumer, about the headless or stateless apps. And so if you look at OutSystem being the glue that kind of puts all this together, that is essentially what the role of OutSystems would be in your organization. In addition to that, there's full application lifecycle management. Now I'm going to get into this a little bit more in the next slide because we're going to break this down into 4 pillars and we'll go into each one of them a little in more detail. So at the first level, we got visual programming. This is an Excel-like expression experience. So for those of you that are not programmers, if you can use Excel and write formulas in Excel, then you can use OutSystems. It's pretty visual driven. In addition to that, the platform architecture provides nice guardrails within the system. So it kind of keeps you doing things the right way or the way that you should or need to use them. In addition to that, there's that full application lifecycle management that is in the platform, as well as the ability to extend the system and the platform beyond what you get out of the box. So now let's go back to the first visual programming block. And we talked about these already. These are the reactive web applications, also the iOS native applications, as well as the Android native apps. Well, in addition to that, you also have a relational database management system inside of the platform, but it's also visual. So you don't need to be a SQL engineer to know how to write all kinds of complex SQL. You can do that if you so desire, but for the average person that doesn't know that, you just use the visual drag and drop type tools and select the columns that you want to use. It's much like using an Excel spreadsheet where you just pick what you need to use. The other thing is the microservices, and I want to put an emphasis here because this is the side of the app that, you know, a lot of the competitors will put this in the extend side, which means you can grab data from the outside in, But what, again, this does is microservices, all the effort and energy you go into putting into making this app, you want to make sure you can get that data out or share that data through integration with other systems. And so this is really, it's headless. It's not pretty because there's nothing to look at, but it's an essential function when you're considering a low code, no code platform, because this is what's really going to keep you having your information and data trapped in yet another system versus being able to take that information and expand and being agile and go through the entire plan that your business has as far as getting information in the hands of your customers and or your employees. So in addition to process and employees, there's usually processes for managing employees, processes for dealing with your customers, and everything in between. And so how do you handle that? Well, that's all handled through the process automation engine. And that is also, again, part of the platform. So endless possibilities, two different ways that you can use or leverage this. And that's either going to be events that'll drive it. In other words, certain interactions happen within an application, data exists in a particular state, and or you may have something that may need to be timed on a schedule every night, every day, every 2 hours, whatever that may be. So now if we start looking into the platform architecture, I really want to put an emphasis, and I used it quotes here, but true reliability. And so this is the concept in OutSystems called a producer and a consumer. And so you'll create modules, okay? And the modules will consume or use or generate data. And that data will have, logic with the modules, and it'll all go hand in hand. And so a module may create the data, but then you may have another module that needs to consume that data. So this is where the reusability, don't create the same thing again and again and again, create it once and use it many times. And that's really the whole premise here. And so this really goes towards using all of the in-house applications. So inside you write a module. For those of you on the call or on the webinar today that are programmers, you'll know all about object-oriented programming. And so this will make a lot of sense to you. This is exactly that same methodology, class, instantiation, and reusability on all of that. And then the other thing that I want to bring to your attention, and this is another key and pinnacle point, and again, not everybody on the call here today may be interested in this, but this goes to the future state of OutSystems. You may want to consider creating an application for your customers. So I'll just throw out some theoretical number. Anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000. That's the number of customers you may have. Imagine with other low-code systems creating an application, and it's great, right? And so it does everything that you need it to do. Customers are super happy. The problem is on the manageability side. If you have to take this application and create an instance of that app, for every customer that you have, you can quickly see how unmanageable this becomes. And you're going to simply need to staff out your IT department very quickly because you're going to need somebody and a fleet of engineers to support all of these multiple apps. Well, with the multi-tenancy switch that's available inside of OutSystems, you create one app for every customer. Salesforce, I believe, is engineered very similarly in that you have a single application, but it deals with all of these multiple tenants. Office 365 is pretty much similar in some regards to that. And so just keep that in mind about the future state of whatever you're building. Do I want to build this multiple times, or do I just want to build this once and use it as many times as I can? So this is another good, very powerful feature of the OutSystems platform. I've used other platforms, and all of these limitations are very frustrating. When you are on a project, you have a deadline, and you need all hands on deck to produce or hit that deadline. Not being able to get the help that you need because nobody can get into the app to develop it with you is really problematic for hitting those deadlines. And then senior management wants to know, hey, what's going on here? Why can't we get this thing out the door faster? Let's just throw more resources at it. And normally you would in traditional. And that's the whole point. When you go to consider low code, no code, you want to be able to do it because the whole premise here is to accelerate what you're already doing to get more time back, not to spend, or be restricted or constrained. And so being able to have multiple developers is a huge, huge feature benefit for you. In addition to that, though, there is some problems that are going to creep up, right? You got two people in the same app, maybe one person accidentally overwrites something, or they try to do something that's not, essentially what needs to happen. And there is where you're going to look at the differential and the comparison, as well as a merge feature to merge and be able to handle this. Again, for those programmers that may be on the call, You'll know this in GitHub with merging and branching and things of that nature. And so that same concept is here as well. So you'll feel quite at home. The other thing too, deployment plans, strategies, typical generic ones are usually a dev, a QA, and a prod. There may be a UAT in the middle, and your organization may have something completely different. But whatever that may be, just know that deployment plans and strategies can also be fleshed out and granularized. Security, compliance, governance, regulations, all of these are huge, right? And so when you're generating all of this energy and creating all of this intellectual property and plethora of information, you need to be able to, in some industries, depending on your organization, you need to have a strong ability to be able to go in and monitor that. OutSystems has a platform in the backside specifically dedicated around towards security and monitoring, and a bunch of features inside of the developer tools that you can set up for additional exception logging and things of that nature. The other thing too to look at, and this kind of goes back to the true reusability, is the ability to use the solution and architecture canvas. Think of this as kind of a guardrail. After you've created something, it's kind of going to go against your code and look at best practices to the industry, what OutSystems has set up and identified, and you're constantly updating this too. But it will take a look at what your work product is and let you know how to make it better, where you may have security holes or concerns, things that you need to look at and address. And so that is absolutely essential. And I've not seen that in many other platforms at all. So OutSystems has really got your back covered there. The other thing to talk about is the Forge. Now, the Forge is just like Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, except it's for OutSystems. And the people that play in the Forge or write code for the Forge is OutSystems themselves. But OutSystems is more of a community of people, right? It's folks like you, folks like me, right? We're writing code, we're doing things, we're creating apps, and we want to share. And so we can not only get accelerators from the platform, but we get accelerators from each other as well. The other thing too is that going back to that hybrid scenario, maybe you've got data trapped on-prem, maybe it's in the cloud. You don't have to use the built-in relational database management system. Maybe it's a NoSQL, or maybe it's a Redshift in Amazon or something. You can connect on-prem or any of these databases inside of the OutSystems platform. And going quickly to the intellectual property issue, you can take the code that's generated by OutSystems, put it in a SQL server, run it on an internet information server under Windows, and you can extrapolate the code of your intellectual property out. It's not a simple configuration file. It's actually there for you to be able to move. So in the event that you wanted to move along or do something, you can take your IP with you. Finally, third-party systems. Everybody's pretty much familiar with that. Any API, third-party API, you can pull that data in to your liking. So that is it for my area of contribution to this webinar. I want to turn this now over to Mike Josephine to give you guys a demo and illustrate some of the capabilities within OutSystems. Mike?
Awesome. Thanks so much for going through that. I think you touched on a lot of the key elements that make OutSystems special. So I appreciate you doing that. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to pull up a field services application. And the reason that I like to actually show this one is it really touches on a lot of the core capabilities of the OutSystems platform. So mobility, having a fit to purpose interface that's really designed for the end user of the application. That's a real common use case, is you want to have something that's really tailored to make the person's job the most streamlined and easiest possible, and really fit to their needs. And that's a great part about the platform. So that said, I am going to go ahead and share my screen here. If you give me 1 second while I do that. All right, and so I am going to share my iPad, so you can see it right here. So I'm going to actually work off of that. And this initial dashboard kind of provides a good overview of the different activities that I have here. I've got a set of inventory that I need to pick up in order to handle the different work orders that I have throughout the course of the day. I've got 5 work orders. They basically are all about town. So I'm in Boston. So I'll need to navigate to those. And it'll give me a little bit of context around that. So I can see basically I'm late for 2 appointments already. I got 3 more this afternoon. I can actually dig into that, see a little bit more what's related to each of those particular work orders. I also have kind of an overview of the different inventory that I need to pick up. Maybe I want to go to one of my warehouses and pick these items up. Maybe I want to actually scan them or kind of update my inventory management system, but you can see I'm actually dragging and dropping that, or I can kind of add them all. One of the great powerful parts of the platform is the ability to orchestrate multiple different disparate systems and have great user interfaces that capture that data and really transform it on the fly to your own business requirements. So now that I've picked up the items that I have, I want to navigate to my first appointment for the day. So here, kind of zooms in on the location of it, and I can actually do a quick navigation to it. And you'll see that pop up. It'll take me about 8 minutes by car to get there. It's actually using the geolocation of my device. So that's actually right where I'm at in the OutSystems office. And it shows me how long it would take me to take a car to my first appointment. So I can actually do that and have that navigate for me if need be. Once here, I can actually start the work order process. So what are the different activities that I have here? Now I've got basically 3 items that I'm gonna install during the course of that. Now, one of the great parts about this is that you have the ability and flexibility to very easily use device native capabilities. So as an example, if I wanted to use the camera here so that I actually am able to pull data from a barcode, I could very easily do that. And then I could have that sync with my inventory management system or launch some specific workflows based on that specific functionality. So here you can see I'm able to capture that information and then kind of go through the different tasks that I have here. And I'm going to ignore that one, go ahead and do that one. Kind of gives me a good summary of the different activities that I have. Now, I might want to do a variety of different things. In this case, what I might want to do is basically see whether or not the person is satisfied with their service. So I could take a picture. Maybe I want to take a picture as I'm moving along my route to show that my package has been delivered. There's a variety of different reasons that somebody might do that. So what I can do is I can actually take a photo here, hello, or actually of my customer itself, right? So my personal astrophysicist here, Neil, I'll grab a picture of him. And then I can use that. And here's what's really cool about the platform is I can actually layer in other services. So in this case, I could use like Azure Cognitive Services to do something like, hey, it's going to do an analysis of the picture or the invoice, pull some data back or give me some feedback here. It looks like my customer was quite happy there. I could also layer in some type of commentary here, which I could sync up with my back office around the service. If I wanted to capture some type of voice capture or signature capture, I have the ability to do that very easily. So if I wanted to get the signature there, I then have all of the core pieces of information related to this work order. I could also synchronize this with a back office application where somebody's kind of tracking what are the different appointments going on here. One of the real powerful parts of the platform is that the more you start using these applications, the more you start to see different use cases that you might want to change with relation to the applications or add on to the application. As an example here, it was awesome that I was able to pick up my inventory, but where are my warehouses, right? I'd actually love to get a sense for where that may be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just pop into Service Studio and make that change and deploy that change live for you so you can actually see it. Now, just to give you a quick 10,000 foot view of Service Studio, it's kind of broken into a couple key areas here. On the left-hand side, I've got my contextual widgets. So these are not focusing on lines of code. I'm focusing in on business needs. What am I looking to accomplish here? How am I going to build out that interface or my logic within the actual application? So I've got that there. Got my low-code canvas in the center. I've got my development segmented into the 4 key areas. So I've got my workflow, my UI, my logic and integrations, and then my data structures that are fundamentally a part of that application and the application flow. So at the bottom, I've got my one-click publish, which I'll tell you a little bit more, which kind of gives me an overview of where my application is if I'm deploying a new version of it. And then I've got my true change engine, which is basically just sitting on top of the platform, providing me contextual feedback. Am I writing this in a secure manner, scalable manner? Are there any issues that I should be aware of? So it's constantly helping me to optimize my experience and simplify that overall development process. So that said, what I want to do is I want to add in a warehouse section here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in a new bottom bar item here. And I want this to be my warehouse section. And I like to have a icon just to make it a little bit easier to see and navigate to. I think and this looks like a warehouse. And then I want to basically navigate to a new screen here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new screen. Now, OutSystems is a really feedback-oriented company, and we're always kind of evaluating how are people using the platform, how can we optimize it. As an example, we have what we call these screen templates. This is where our UI UX experts spoke to our customers, said, what are some common use cases that you have? Let's build these into the platform to really simplify that experience. And you can see here, we have a whole wealth of different options that are available. Now, kind of thinking through my business requirements here, what do I want to do? I'd like to have a map, right? Maybe in the back here where I can visually represent where my warehouses are. And then maybe on the left-hand side, I'll have like kind of a list of my warehouses. So that said, maybe create that there. And let me make some quick changes to this. So I want this to be my warehouses. And I want to have a nice map here. So let me see what I've got from a map perspective. Perfect, I've got a single location map. And let me just drag and drop that in here. Drag and drop it right there. Perfect. And then I want to have a warehouse that I will be selecting from my list. You'll notice that it does things like data type determinations. It's just kind of dynamically helping me throughout the development experience. And again, on this left-hand side, what I want to see is my warehouses. So all I have to do is just drag and drop this in here. And OutSystems will do what we call this dynamic data binding, basically just updating the UI based on understanding the structure of my data structure, which is really helpful. It really simplifies me adapting a screen template to my end business requirements. So that said, let's put in some logic here to go ahead and change which warehouse I have active. So what I'll do is when somebody clicks on it, kind of with their finger, it will go ahead and update the warehouse. So I have AI assisted development here where it can give me some recommendations here, which I might want to set a variable, right? Which is exactly what I want to do. It also has predictive recommendations in here, which is, hey, maybe you want to update, say, a warehouse. But sometimes it's able to figure out what you might want. Other times you might need to make some changes in there. But one of the really powerful parts about the platform is that this type of dynamic help is constantly learning. So it's kind of that AI ML layer within the platform, so that over time, it's getting more and more effective as people build more and more applications on the platform. So I've got that there. And then I go ahead and hit that one-click publish button. Now, what's really powerful about the one-click publish button is, one, I'm gonna be able to hot deploy a change to my mobile app, which is pretty awesome. I don't have to create a new IPA or APK file. It's gonna just launch it straight to my mobile app, which is pretty cool to see. It's also doing things like, hey, I'm gonna compile down to native code. I'm gonna put it across all my front-end servers. So OutSystems is simplifying that whole development lifecycle. So it's really reducing the time and effort that I need to put into some of the plumbing of getting my application right. It's just really kind of simplifying that entire process for me. And then here you can kind of track as it's going along, which is it's taking that version. So if I need to go to a different version, I can go ahead and make that change there. And then another thing too is you actually have the ability to like compare to other versions of your application and whatnot. So if I come in here, let me pull up my app here. let's see here. I've got a new warehouse section here. Now, if I click on it and I click, oh, shoot, I think I have a bug here. Let me go ahead and take a look at what that might be here. Come in, look at my screen. You know what it was? I forgot to put my latitude and longitude in there. Now, what's really cool about the platform is, hey, you know what? You're going to always find new requirements. Somebody's going to come in, they're going to start, building an application, and they're going to say, I need a warehouse screen. Or, hey, now that I've got this warehouse screen, I need to have a back office screen to manage that. And the ability to agilely, is that even a word? With agility, create my applications is really, really powerful. And it allows a really tailored end experience. And that's where you get these feedback cycles, because you're building in, like, I think this app that I'm showing you was built in, I want to say it was like 3 weeks to build, which is, you just really think about that. That's like really powerful. You can build and deploy applications so quickly with the platform. You can just have these really tailored experiences. And look at that. I already got a new version of my application deployed. Let's see if that took care of my problem with my screen here, updated to my new one. Let me click on this here, and boom, got that problem fixed. And I can jump around to the different warehouses that I've got located. So it's really to the power of OutSystems. Like, man, it's so cool. You can change applications, you can add in new functionality, you can really be creative in what you do. And you just see, as you use a platform more and more, you just think about more and more ways in which you can adapt and evolve your applications. So anyways, that's the core of what I wanted to show you there. So I'll turn it back to David.
Excellent. All right, give me just a second here. Do this transition. Okay, thanks, Mike, for that demo. Definitely appreciate that. And so hopefully everybody had an opportunity to see a little bit of the power within the OutSystems platform. Dave, you want to wrap up?
Yeah, so thank you, David, and thank you, Mike, for all your time. Open it up to some Q&A. I know we did have a couple of questions come in. I did try to type in answers to those questions, but the first question we had is OutSystems Platform a SaaS-based or on-prem or hybrid? The answer is kind of both. There's an option if you want to host it up in the cloud with the OutSystems framework behind it. That is an option. Or if you want to bring it inside and have it on-prem, you can also do that as well. The cool thing, though, is you can deploy your apps anywhere, as long as you set up all the permissions and everything right. So it does give you that kind of flexibility to be everywhere as you need to. The next question we had was, please share a few key customers leveraging OutSystems Platform, and which are some of the popular use cases, and which groups within an org use this much. So I can post, I posted out to the chat there a link to the OutSystems case study page, which has an enormous number of case studies that you can filter by industry or by use case as well. But OutSystems has a large footprint in Europe, so you're going to see a lot of examples from Europe, and a growing footprint in North America. You're going to see some growth in the North American market today as well. So I don't know if I want to drill into any of those more deeply, kind of just let you to look through those on your own accord. Chelsea, do we have any other questions?
We do. Thank you for answering those ones submitted. Another one that was submitted is, how does OutSystems fall in the Gartner's Magic Quadrant?
Sure, I'll go ahead and take that one. We are a leader, actually. One of the great things about OutSystems, we've been around for 20 years. So we actually basically started the low-code market. We're the oldest vendor in the space, and you can really tell with the actual platform itself. If you want to play around with it, you go to outsystems.com. You can try now for free, and you can see. But we are a leader.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike, for that. Another question submitted. Is it possible to take an existing external database, and could I easily integrate that with OutSystems?
And I'll take that one. The answer is, in short, yes, you can absolutely do that. One of the things that we didn't show or showcase here in the demo was when you install the Studio application, which is what Mike was showing where he built the demo, there's another second piece of that called Integration Studio. And with the Integration Studio, you simply integrate it with those external databases and then jump back into the platform that you saw Mike in earlier, and you simply just consume the data wherever it currently is within your organization. So very, very, very powerful stuff.
And just to add a little bit on that, I'll let you all in a little secret. We are actually adding that functionality into Integration Builder. So it'll be even more streamlined here very shortly. And that probably is going to be announced at Next Step, but I'll give you a little sneak peek on that new functionality within the platform.
That'd be great.
Excellent. Another question, are there particular business cases for which low code is best to use?
Sure, I'd love to take that one. You know, I think one of the questions I always hear from my customers when they first start with the platform is, what do you do with it, right? The way that I look at it is that we usually start small, right? Usually like a field services application, that's a really common start point, or operational efficiency applications within an organization. So either like optimizing a process or a workflow, or a lot of times there's disparate systems within an organization, and they need to have kind of like a single pane of glass, so to speak, where they can kind of see multiple different data points from different systems. All really great use cases to start with. Being low code, we can really address a huge set of use cases, but usually it's kind of in a crawl, walk, run approach where you're kind of getting your feet wet, understanding it a little bit better, and then really kind of running with it. I know some of our customers have over 900 applications built on the platform, because that really goes to the general purpose nature of the platform. You can really do a lot with it.
Yeah, Mike, I can also add something too. So for those of you out there that have ERP systems and are waiting, because ERP systems are huge. They have lots of modules, lots of moving parts. And so if you think about how to augment that or wait for a feature request, if you put in a feature request to say SAP, how long is it going to take for you to actually see that feature? And then, of course, think about new employees coming on board, having to learn SAP. Maybe they're a new employee that's never introduced to an ERP system ever. So being able to use these low code, no code systems, consume pieces or parts of the main platform to extend these big systems is great in small little isolated areas too. So there's a lot of flexibility in low code, no code between just building a standalone app to extending existing large enterprise systems too as well. And it also, obviously, because it's a smaller niche, it's a lot easier to learn too than an entire ERP system or platform.
Wonderful. Great questions, everyone. Due to time, we will need to answer the remaining questions offline. You'll see here on this slide, we have some contact information for our speakers. I want to thank you, everybody, for joining today. And thank you to our presenters, Mike, David, Darby, David Soden. Really appreciated this session. As a reminder, we will send out a recording of this in the next day or so, so please keep an eye out for that. And then I will let David have any sort of closing statements, and we hope to see you next time, everyone.
Hey, just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. We think low code is an exciting place to play, and we can see a lot of powerful solutions coming out of this pretty quickly. Please feel free to reach out to us if you want to just pick our brains about some different problems that you might be having, and we can help figure that out. Love to do a one-on-one meeting or even a workshop if that makes sense for you and your team. And of course, consider us to engage to engage with you to maximize your low code initiatives going forward. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.